Hi, this is Emily with Pixel Breakdown, and today I have the Lost Gator Collective here to talk to us about their game. I don't know if y'all want to give a brief introduction as to who you are, what your role is, and then also what the game is about.
I'm Brad. I do game design and programming. So that time I got trapped in an office dungeon is a second-person horror puzzle escape room, which is, we think, kind of unique because you don't really see it like second-person games too often. But the idea behind it is that you are someone who's looking at 9 security camera, CCTV footage, old CRT TVs. And as you look at each of these different cameras, you see someone inside of them, and you also control that person. So you are controlling someone who's looking at a set of screens, but you're also controlling the person in the screens. And you don't always have access to all the cameras right away. So you have to press buttons to turn on other cameras, which gives you a different view of the room that you're in. So it's kind of like an interesting perspective puzzle escape room.
Hello, I'm Neil, but I also go by Nee. I am the art director on the team, and I primarily do all the environment modeling. Yay! So anything you see pretty much in the game that's like materials or just environment stuff, I usually been the one who has worked on it or at least touched it and fixed it up and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Leslie, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, my name is Leslie. I actually go by Les. I'm a project manager and a artist. So I also like work on like 2D art, UI, and also like learning more on like 3D modeling because I have a cool ass art director.
And then Luke.
Yeah, so I'm Luke. I'm also a programmer. I'm also the sound designer on the team and resident shader boy. I did the CRT shader for the screens on the CCTV footage.
Very, very interesting. And something interesting about y'all as a group is you're 2 couples, right? Yeah, that's so cute. living the dream, right? I mean, we were talking about this earlier. It's so cool that like not only are you in a couple, like that's something that you get to work on together, but then you also just so happen to have like close friends who are also a couple who work on or like are interested in doing that stuff too. So yeah, that's really cool. So is there an origin story for Lost Gator Collective? Like how did you decide to become like a collective?
We should give the story behind the name as well too, right, Liza?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we've been like college friends for like over 5 years. Am I right, guys? Yeah,
like 7 years actually. Yeah, about
really.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So we've always been talking about like kind of like creating like a game together, although like there's been like time conflicts. But like a few years ago when we tried to like work on a game idea, we went to Gatlinburg just for a vacay and also get some inspo. So the story behind like the name Lost Gator was I was really still am into gators and like crocodiles, like lizards, pretty much. And like during like driving down the road, I saw a store that said that they have live gators like inside the store. So I was telling the guys like, oh my God, I want to go see the gators, guys. Like they have it inside the store. So then we all like kind of like went in and then there was no gator at all. It was just an empty tank.
That's false advertising. So it was lost. I get it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And then how did you sort of decide on this game as the one that y'all would work on together? Like, did you set out to do like a horror psychological game or was there something else?
Yeah, so it started out as a game jam game. We did Chicago. That was it 2024 or 23?
2024.
2024.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's 2024. We just the premise for the game jam was like something to do. I can't remember the exact prompt. Something to do with like rewatching or watching yourself or something. And so I think Brad initially came up with the idea where it's like, hey, it would be kind of cool if you were like watching yourself through like security footage, you know. And I was like, oh, okay, we could do a cool shader for that. Sounds like a fun idea. It was a Halloween jam, given the name Chicago. And so, yeah, with that. Drawing a blank. I love it when this happens. But that we kind of settled on the horror aesthetic, and then that's where we kind of built the game up. We did the jam through the Indie City Games group, which is kind of a local indie group here in Chicago. And yeah, they have a bunch of really cool connections. So we got to put the game on gx.games, get a little promotion from it, and we got a lot of buzz from it. We got kind of a big YouTuber to play our game, Manly Badass Hero. So that was pretty exciting to see that come through. And so that's where we decided to incorporate and try and pursue this and try and make a thing of it.
I love hearing stories about game jam games becoming like real full-on games. I think that's really great. I do want to ask some questions about like the core concepts and gameplay design. So what were some of the challenges in designing gameplay where, yeah, the player watches and guides rather than like directly moving as the person, as like first person or what's commonly seen?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges in that was that since, like, unlike a lot of games, there's no like true one perspective where you're seeing your player from. Like in first person, you have like always that first person camera, and in third person, you've always got like it's either over the shoulder or somewhere around you, whether it be a bird's eye view. But in this, since you can see yourself from multiple cameras, like there is no one straight or left or right or back or whatever. So we pretty much had to use tank controls, which were very common in like the early PlayStation days with like Resident Evil and stuff like that. And so it's funny to see like a lot of people try that who didn't grow up on like PlayStation controls, and they're like, wait, what are these controls? And then some people are like, oh wait, this reminds me of games back in the day. So it's definitely just like the movement has been one of like the biggest things that we've had to design around, especially because it can be disorienting as you go from camera to camera. You're like, oh wait, I'm here now. So definitely like the biggest challenge there is just working with the cameras and the movement.
Yeah, I believe it. It seems like a lot to take on. So I am curious too, are there like branching paths or multiple interpretations as to what's actually going on in the office dungeon?
Well, I wouldn't say branching paths, but there's a little bit of a mystery. You know, you kind of have to uncover. We give the player little hints and clues as to what's going on, but it's very much a linear progression level to level.
Okay, that makes sense. So how did you approach designing the puzzles, like that spatial reasoning, from like a disembodied, limited person or limited perspective?
Yeah, that's a fun one. So like when we were designing the first level, something that you have to like design it with something in mind is that you only have like we kind of like agreed on like a 9 camera perspective because it's like enough to see everything, but it's not like too overwhelming. You kind of have to design the level so that you can see each part of the room that you're in from a different camera, because if there's any sort of area in the level that's not covered by a camera, the player can get lost in there and then they get frustrated because they can't find their way out. But yeah, it's very much you have to design it in a way where every part of the map can be seen at one point, but you also want to obfuscate parts of the puzzles so that things can be discovered in a somewhat linear manner. There's like a little bit of branching in that, like you can maybe solve one puzzle before another within a level. But the way the progression in a level works is that you solve one thing, it gives you a bit of a clue, or it opens up a new camera perspective where you can then use that to solve another puzzle and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like making the area, making the puzzles, and then lots and lots of just design work so that you can get the cameras right in the right place. And even if you have it all down on paper, the actual implementation of it in the game engine was was difficult just because it's like, oh, you can't see this. You can't really tell what this is. It's getting cut off by the vignette. It's too high. It's too low. It's too close. Like, just like lots of tweaking to make sure that everything fits right in place. And it just happened to come out together. So
I don't think it probably didn't just happen. Y'all probably worked a lot, right? Like playtesting. It doesn't sound easy.
It's with the desk that has the key on it and like the main level where like we had to make sure that there was something in the corner of the one camera to tie it to the rest of the level. Otherwise players couldn't really figure out how to get there.
Yeah. You set out, you didn't try and make the easiest game. I'll put it that way. Like I can tell you really wanted to make this concept come together. So yeah, hats off. Was there ever like a mechanic or feature that like one department really loved but another hated? Because you're in a unique position in that a lot of indie devs that I've talked to are solo devs, or like there's one or two, right? But you have 4 people. So yeah, like did you run into any conflicts?
Never. Perfect.
I think we do good collaboration work. I think we've all thrown out different ideas at one point, and I don't think any one person has like dictated what every single mechanic does. Like I think the game has a little bit of all of us in there, whether it be from story to design to just the way everything looks and works. So it's about compromise and kind of just like hearing each other out.
For sure. I think also just like the fact that you've got programmers and then artists, and clashing those together, they argue a lot. I mean, not argue, but it's more just like, we got to make it work visually. We need to make it look good. And then obviously programmers are like, we can't.
Oh yeah. We wanted
to
add a cool ass text feature to like make it more immersive. And then all these poor programmers have to like figure out how to make that work.
Right.
Yes, definitely. Like I know definitely for one, the one thing I'm like still like, oh, I don't know about this one is definitely the post-it note. The post-it note is definitely like one big thing, and it plays as like a little like control visual like tutorial. So you see it literally in the middle of the screen, which is helpful, but also at the same time, I'm like, it could be better, at least to me. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it'll definitely get upgraded one of these days. We'll fight for it.
Yeah, what's also interesting is I feel like people don't really read it, even though it's like right in front of you too.
Gamers not reading things right in front of them. I don't believe it.
And it's yellow. The thing is, it's a yellow post-it note too. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
I could see also from like the art side, in like traditional art media, it's like you have that feeling where it's like this painting's never actually done, right? There's always something that can be done.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to balance that, right, with games because you actually want a release date or something.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. We have a date set up, but I'm still a rough day, but it's definitely like, I am like, there is so much to do still that I want to make sure it looks perfect. So I think it's getting there very slowly. It's going to get there. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out visually. Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah.
I think the visuals of it is really fun and interesting. So, actually shifting over to questions that are like more art focused, what was your approach to character and object design in the game where everything is sort of seen as removed, or there's like this filter? It's like you want things to be seen, but not 100% seen, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for one thing, since this was only a 3-week game jam, the main thing was we need to make sure we can pop out these models as quick as we can. And especially for a horror game, it's fairly easy to make horror games that are low poly. And because of that, that's what helped us a lot. And I got super inspired by, Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And so we thought we would drive that aesthetic of having a PS1 style game. And yeah, using that visualizer, that CRT TV shader, that helped a lot with kind of driving that weird disjointed look that we wanted, that old PS1 games had, because even me now as an adult, I still get creeped out by games like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, even Metal Gear Solid still creeps me out. And I'm a 28-year-old woman, and that is a game that I played as a kid. And even now I'm like, this is a spooky game. And it's just because of that look of that like low poly look of, I don't know, there's a creepy factor to low poly games where your brain is kind of interpreting what it looks like because it's not realistic enough. So it's like your brain is kind of like putting the pieces together, which makes it creepier. And I think that was a nice look that we tried to achieve in this 3-week jam. And now that we have more time, I think we're going to try to polish that look even more and try to get that more PS1 feel in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. There's something creepy about that sort of like, you know, I don't know. It seems like a good thing to work with, to that natural creep factor that's in there. So how did you make interactable elements visually readable within this like murky and distorted camera feed? Or is it not? Is it just like let the players got to figure it out maybe?
Yeah, I mean, this is still something we're kind of experimenting with, because in the game jam, like Luke said, like a lot of people were looking at these objects and like, what is that? We can't tell what that is. Like the key, that was a big one. And we actually had to make it like kind of oversized just so you could tell that it's a key. And the old shader that we had, like it made the pixels on the screens look super pixely. So like the key looked like it was like 3 pixels long or whatever. So people are like, is that a paintbrush? What is that? And so, yeah, that's still something we're kind of working with and trying to balance out. I think we have a good balance going now because we're playing a lot with things like contrast, like having the key on top of like a darker object or like on the desk or something. So you can kind of tell what the shape or the silhouette is. We actually have a scene, because we're working in Unity, we have a scene set up where I could throw objects in so I can look at the silhouette of objects to see if they're readable. Because that's the biggest thing, is having readability with our object shapes. So that's, yeah. We want it to look not super totally obvious what it is, but it's definitely something to be like, hey, oh, look at it. You know, maybe it's useful. Yeah, a little hint.
Yeah, I agree. There's always this like, it's a fine line between like making it known to the player that they can interact with something, and then like crossing that line to where it's not like, look, there's a big arrow pointing at this thing. Particularly in a game like this where you have a lot of like the I'm forgetting the word, but it's like the scene and the mood is like very key to this game, right? So it's like but from the like videos I was seeing, it looks like you're handling everything really well. I think too have you heard of uncanny valley, that term for like when someone's face looks almost, and it seems like you're kind of playing with that too, even with objects where it's like, this kind of looks like what it is, but kind of not. And that adds to the creep factor. Were there specific techniques that you use to create that unease and confusion through visuals?
Yeah. Like what I previously said with having in the PS1 graphics, I think that's definitely one of the biggest factors that we're using for our game. Also using things like green tones, because green gives that feeling of like kind of like nauseating, like kind of like spooky feeling. And I've been trying to like, especially in our new version of our game, it's got a lot of like a green lighting to it, just to feel very like, you kind of feel sick a little bit when you're looking at the game. And I want to be able to drive that more. On top of the fact that, like I said, we don't want all our objects to look super readable. We want them to hint enough, because I'm using a lot of elements of photo bashing our objects. So like our cassettes, our key, a lot of like our doors and stuff. I'm doing a lot of photo bashing with texturing our objects. So it has like more realistic textures to them, but your brain is still trying to like render out the lack of details, which gives that like creepy or unease feeling. So yeah.
Damn, that's cool. Yeah, it seems like you're really playing with like the psychology sort of thing of it. Or yeah, like using the uncanny valley stuff to your full advantage, which definitely adds to this, like when your brain can tell something's not fully right, but it's close enough. I don't know.
Right.
It does create unease.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because, especially just horror games in general, it is all psychological. And it's funny because I love horror games, but I can't really play them that well. Like I'm a chicken. And as someone who's also a game developer at my full-time job, it's not a genre I've ever really touched before until this game. And so getting to jump into a genre I've never really played with before, it's been interesting. And I've been trying to do a lot of research into previous old horror games that are more classic, because obviously since we're sticking with the more PS1 style game and it's not realistic at all, I was trying to take a lot of inspiration from older games, like even just PS2 graphic games as well. So yeah.
That's cool. So what do you do professionally for games? And are you kind of enjoying this freedom that you have here where you're able to?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I actually work as a 3D artist too at Alchemy Labs, which is a VR company that they made Job Simulator, and we're working on pretty cool stuff there. And then also on the side, I also work at Strange Scaffold as a contract 3D artist there as well. And it's funny because the game that I'm working on there right now kind of uses a similar method where it's more PS2 graphics rather than PS1. And so I've been learning a lot on that project, which it is the game is called Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking Game. So very cool.
That's a name.
I know. Yeah, I know. And on that game, also a lot of just low poly models, still a bit cartoony, but it's still got that kind of creepiness factor. And that's actually helped me a lot with learning, okay, here's some ways I can kind of experiment with even our own game, using more pixelation on our textures. So nothing looks super smooth and perfect. It looks very grungy and grimy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had another question. Oh yeah. So when you said the green kind of gives that creepy feel, is that something that because I've never heard that before, but when you were describing it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It is actually kind of odd, but is that something that's what is it defined that people just know aside from me, I guess, that's a thing, or is that something that you guys figured out on your own kind of with testing?
For me, at least, I've done a lot of color theory and learning color theory. So that's a big thing I'd learned back in school and stuff. And even watching old movies, I'm a Twilight girly. I grew up watching all the Twilight movies a lot. And if you watch the first movie, it has this really heavy, darker green teal tone throughout the whole movie. So you kind of feel a little eeriness throughout the whole movie. And it's funny because you don't see that in the rest of the movies at all. It's just the first movie that has that heavy stylization of that green tone throughout the entire movie. And when I was younger, I was like, why do I feel so weird and sick when I watch this movie? I mean, I love the movie, but I was still kind of this movie's a little weird. Why do I feel weird? And that actually helped me learn a lot about more color theory and with green tones. And even newer movies do the same thing. I'm trying to recall some movies, but there are some movies I feel that have been coming out more recently that use heavy on green lighting. And I guess not pure green, but it's definitely more like a pale green or a sage green or a tealish color that really gives that unease of making your skin tone almost look kind of dead, that kind of feeling, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, drives a lot of that. So it's very helpful, especially in our game. And especially because old VHS tapes, I feel like VHS, since we're doing a lot of that VHS look on CRT TVs, I feel like a lot of old tapes still have that like color grading. At least, I don't know, maybe if like my home tapes were like this, but a lot of them did have like a very slight like discoloration on them. Mm-hmm. And I want to drive a lot of that like with like some green tones. And I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, I love hearing all the like thought that's gone into all these decisions because it all makes a lot of sense when you're talking about it. And yeah, the old like CRT and old VHSs and stuff, it's like they didn't quite have colors figured out, right? And that does make it creepy. It's a little eerie. It's definitely more eerie than if you just like popped in a DVD that has like HD crisp whatever. So yeah, it sets the scene and the mood very well. I am curious, like, what kind of visual themes and motifs then? I mean, you've kind of described the general vibe pretty well, but is there anything else that you want to note that you're like trying to reinforce throughout the world?
Yeah, Leslie, you got any?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm more of a like graphic designer, so I study a lot of like typography. So taking place in like retro like 80s and 90s. I was studying into like a lot of like font usage at the time, like sans serif, and then avant-garde, what was a big thing, and trying to like twist into just like playing into our posters. I created like a bunch of like motivational posters that you like see in like they see at like a basic Dollar Tree, but also like kind of like adding like an eerie like message to it. Like it's oddly motivational. I have like one that says your mistakes will follow you.
Ooh, creepy. I agree that adds too to like this idea that there's some power above that's like, don't forget to smile. Like everything's good, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they are creepy. So I think it's interesting that you added those in, for sure.
I know your favorite is we're like a family here.
Yeah, you're like a family. You can never leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's creep. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, honestly. Was that it though? Or I don't know if anyone else has anything they wanted to speak to the art. I'm not used to having so many people, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anyone. Like,
no, for sure. At least like for motifs and stuff, it's funny because our game feels very similar to Severance. If you know the show, you know the vibe. Because in Severance, it's very heavy on the corporate aspect, and we're kind of doing the same, like a similar thing. And it's funny, when we made the game, none of us had ever watched the show. And we just started it like a month and a half ago. And when I watched it, it had this very heavy, like liminal space, having just like everything is spaced out. Like all the desks are like in one corner and the whole room is just empty. And all the hallways are just like brightly lit. And it's just white and it's spooky and it's just very empty. And I took a lot of inspiration from that after watching the show. And I was like, oh, that's so creepy. Like just having such a weird corporate setting where it's just, everything is just empty. Like, why are offices like this, you know? And if I don't work in an office space, I work from my lovely home. So I guess like, it's a lot of just like, I think office spaces kind of feel like this. And luckily Les here works at office spaces and has lovingly given us pictures of her very eerie office spaces. So it's been very helpful to look at. And I'm like, this helps a lot with that like spooky emptiness feeling of these offices. So yeah.
Funny enough, like my main workplace is being a fashion designer, but the fact that like our office space was like built in the 1960s and has barely like been renovated. Like here and there, I think they try to add color to it, but then someone said that's too much color, so they removed it. Yeah, what is also interesting, I think like when we first like did the game jam, I had like my coworkers like play the game too, and they also like mentioned like it relates to them in a way, like just like being trapped in a space that you can never really leave. It is like, I don't know, we're all kind of like trauma resonating.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah, trauma bonding.
Yeah, those places aren't fun. I mean, you're supposed to spend all day there, but it's like you use these like really uncomfortable lights that aren't fun to sit in. And yeah, way different than like your cozy home, for sure. But yeah, I am curious on like sound stuff. So how did you design like sound and then as a separate component, like the lighting, to support the unsettling tone?
Yeah, sure thing. So like definitely a big motif is the CCTV footage, you know, so making something kind of sound like analog or like crunchy is kind of like a big directive from the get-go. So I have this like I I have this like chain in Ableton that I use for a lot of the sounds for like the TV screens when you're like clicking and switching between different things. It's literally like 20 OTTs like on top of each other. Like it's a big meme to use OTT on everything, but it has a good effect where it kind of just like adds all these weird artifacts that sound really good. And so, yeah, using kind of those along with like cab sims to kind of make sound like you're coming out of a CRT or like just sound electronic in general without sounding digital. Because it does kind of have that like older, antiquated electronic feel to it. But yeah, there are a couple of times where like sound also comes into like gameplay, specifically like for the elevator, whenever you clear a level, whenever you push the right button that signals the elevator to turn on, we need to have that audio cue so that there's a much more direct signal to the player that they need to go and do something. We have a light that also turns on the elevator, but if we just had the light, it might not look at it. So having the sound as well is something that helps also tie the player to where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've noticed one of the things that does take that is really important for these horror games. I spoke with a horror dev a couple episodes ago, but yeah, it was like light in particular is very important because yeah, you want the player to be able to see stuff, obviously, but you also want to keep that like eerie feeling, and it does have like a big impact, like all these components put together. So I do think it is interesting that y'all have a bunch of people working on these different components, being able to like fine tune those little things for sure. Sound wise, is it one of those games where do you think there's going to be like a creepy sound, like a original soundtrack, or is it mostly like sounds and like background?
Yeah, there is OST. I mean, I synthesized a lot of the sound effects as well, but then also we do have like just tracks going on in the background. We have a ambient spookiness. It was kind of interesting to write because you can't go. I like to make things very melodic, so I had to like just do the same note over and over again to like make it lay back and not get into the player's head so much. But we also have other stuff too, like swells that come up when you're about to die because you're not finishing the puzzle fast enough. It has, again, a bunch of like over OTT sounds in it, as well as some more. I do get to do a little bit of melodicism. There's another track where like you finish the puzzle and your character is like taking a break in the elevator, like it's done, it's over, that kind of a thing. So we're definitely going to have like an OST type stuff. I do have the sounds on SoundCloud currently, so they're there, and we'll probably add more whenever they come around.
Yeah, I'll link those if you want in the description and stuff. Yeah,
sweet. I'll send those over to you. Well, the Gators.
Do y'all have like a hand sign like the Gators or something like that?
No, we should make it though.
Yeah.
Gators, yeah.
Gators.
Yes. So on to like some more like technical questions. Like what game engine are you developing in, and is there a particular reason that y'all are using that one?
Yeah, we just. You want to do it? Okay, sure. We just use Unity because it's the one we all know, and it's quick and easy, and we can also do a lot with game dev. It's like you want to do things that are fast and don't take a lot of time, but you also kind of want stuff to be good, and a lot of times making the stuff good comes at the cost of time. In this case, we just use the tool we know, and it gives us both.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never question when people say, yeah, Unity, Unreal, but it is curious to hear like. Because you guys have done a lot of game jams, right? And things like that. So it is interesting to hear like what your what your take is, your whatever, whether you like them or not, basically. So yeah. And Unity works well for like Les and me when you're doing like art stuff.
Yeah, more or less. It's not like Unreal. Unreal, in my opinion, I am an Unreal person. I love Unreal. It's every artist's favorite engine. It's very much out of the box. The lighting's instantly beautiful. It's just wonderful. And with Unity, you have to do a lot of finagling to get it the way you want. Like, it's achievable in Unity, but it takes a lot of time, which is not a problem. But Unreal, it's definitely like, it's very easy to just be like, hey, I can just pop a cube in it. It looks like a movie, you know? It's beautiful. Yeah.
I agree with that. Like both engines are pretty, you can pretty much sort of make the same sort of comparable game, but some of them do like have their ups where it's like, oh yeah, this I can just do quickly, right? The other one takes a little fine tuning. I know with my professional experience in like the games industry, designers and artists always loved Unreal because yeah, it was easy for them to really take full on control of the stuff that they're working on and like tweak that stuff.
Yeah, I felt like Unity, Unreal is like a nice, like easy art beginner engine to use. I think for me, like I used to experiment a lot during college, just like putting like art stuff and like messing with the material shaders.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to mess around in, and like before you know it, you've been messing with shaders for like a couple hours. But then also for me, I'm like, I just still don't understand some of this. It gets a little crazy, but it's great that those tools are there for you to use. So were there any like technical hurdles in implementing the security camera system and like the multiple viewpoints?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So it's funny. When I was originally like imagining the idea, the original theme to it was imagine Resident Evil, but you can just like scroll through the cameras. So we had to like use Q and E, and you just like are looking at one camera and you're trying to find like, oh, where am I? That way, you know, you're not just forced to have like a camera that's like one over here, one in the next room. You could have multiple like in the same area. And then as we were doing that, I realized, wait, this sucks. Like I can't like find myself. Like I'm scrolling through like these cameras and like it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. And then Nee here was like, oh, I thought you meant like we were looking at like security cam footage, like someone at their desk, like watching like TVs. I'm like, wait, that's way better than what we're doing right now. And so like I thought in my head, I was like, oh, you could like move around like with the mouse and you could zoom in and zoom out. And I was like, wait, this is a great idea. And so we worked on a mock-up for that. And then just from the get-go, it was kind of like magic. It was like you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, this is the route that we need to go.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that again, like the relationship thing, it's just cute getting to see like like the collaboration on this stuff. So yeah. I am curious about like shifting over to reflections on like the game development. Any advice that you would give to aspiring devs who want to develop a game like this?
Yeah. I mean, when we were working on it, like one worry that I had was like, oh, this is kind of like out there and are people going to understand it? Like it was kind of already hard to like explain. Like I was like really sold on it from the get-go. So we we're all going through ideas and I was like, I'm sorry guys, I don't want to bogart, but like I really like my idea. Like I have a vision. I would say my advice would be don't be afraid to be experimental. Don't be afraid to do something that hasn't been done before. So many games take inspiration from other games, and that's great. Even ours takes inspiration from games, but it's completely okay to be like, I don't know if this is gonna, be well received by people because it hasn't been done before, and there's no prior experience to say like if someone's gonna enjoy this game or not. You just got to go out and make it. You got to go out, do it, play it yourself, show it to people, see what they think. Don't be afraid to iterate on it, but yeah, don't be afraid to just go out there and just like do something that hasn't been done before because you're like, I think this is a cool idea and I think it could go somewhere.
I think too, like you branching out to do this second person viewpoint is very interesting. I think my first draft of questions actually said like, what made you, decide to take this route? Because you just don't hear of it a lot. Like, it's not, it's first or third. We don't even remember second. So it is interesting though that you're saying like just mess around, just try stuff out. Anyone else have any advice for aspiring devs?
Definitely think when Brad said like iteration is good, I think is key, especially because I think having some results to kind of go with your commitments, I think is important. We made the Game Jam game. It was a lot of fun. We liked making the Game Jam game. But definitely like getting a little bit of buzz in the beginning was what motivated us to kind of pursue it further. So if it weren't for that, it would have just been another fun project and we would have enjoyed the time we spent on it. But now we get to do more. So definitely making sure you have some results to kind of go along with your commitments.
Yeah. And then another sort of like general question, what's the one thing that you hope players take away from their experience playing your game?
Yeah, I definitely can talk about that because when we were making the game, I was also capital U unemployed, which is very common in our profession. And so kind of as we were kind of making the game, I think I kind of started putting in like a couple of things that were like snide or personal, or it was like, oh, when you lose, let's have like the game over text be like a HR letter that's like, oh, we thank you so much for taking interest in our company. Unfortunately, and then like you're out of here basically. But yeah, so I kind of feel like there's a bit of a metaphor in the game where it's like a job hunt can kind of feel like you're stumbling around in the dark, trying to constrain yourself to certain fixed perspectives to try and appease someone else who can give you a leg up. So I hope that someone else who plays this might feel related to, and just like, oh yeah, that me,
Yeah, I would say kind of adding on to what Luke said, just like any sort of experiences that you have in life, whether they're positive or negative, like can help you make art. It can help you make, an experience, a game. So, life is about going through so much, and it's okay to kind of like take all of that and make something unique from your perspective. And so, and I think that's another thing that makes our game so fun and special is because like we do put all a little bit of ourselves everywhere. So it's like, it's not really like, it doesn't look like any one of us. It looks like all of us.
Mm-hmm. I ditto that.
Yeah.
I approve. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So wait, did you end up keeping the death screen is like a memo from HR sort of situation? Oh, that's so funny. Those are so irritating. But I love it.
We look for opportunities to include stuff like that in there that makes you feel like, oh, this is a company that's up to some stuff, but they have a good, real clean face about it.
Yes. Oh, so creepy.
I think as we're like kind of like developing the narrative too, like I also like being like part of like a corporate environment. I guess like I can throw in like a few cents of like just like interesting things that you're like experiencing through the workplace to feel kind of like genuine as you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leslie's definitely had some moments at work where she told us some stuff and we're like, okay, we got to get that in.
Yeah. Write that shit down.
I was just about to say that. I was like, I bet you're pulling a lot of like personal experiences and bringing that in. I think it's great too. I mean, you all have like your specific titles, right? Like as what you do, but I mean, you're a relationship, so surely you're influencing basically everything, right? So yeah, I think that's just really cool. Yeah, okay. I'll ask one last time just to make sure, since there's so many of you. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to say on the game? Mm-hmm. We're good?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Wish listed.
Yes, wish list your game.
Yes, I'll have the link for sure. I do have 2 short form questions before we wrap up. Well, actually, we already covered like what advice you would give to a dev. But I don't know if each of you want to answer this or if someone wants to, but can you summarize the indie game dev experience in 3 words?
We can try. I'd say fun, rewarding, and strenuous, just because like there's so many like ups and downs of just like, oh no, I have to work on this. I'm crunching. I'm up late at night. I'm doing all these things. This isn't going to look good. And then we bring it out to the world, and you have that like kind of nervousness of like, oh, what are people going to think of it? And we've gotten like a lot of really good feedback and like people that really enjoyed it. And so it's just kind of like that high that you get after being like, oh, our work is paying off. Someone really likes it, and it just feels really good. But it's definitely like you have to put in the work in order to like get that end result. So yeah, I would say fun, rewarding, strenuous, very strenuous, but I'd do it again, and I will continue to do it. So
I would say crying noises, pain, help me, or just help.
I'll allow it.
No, but for real though, like piggybacking off of Brad's same thing, like I if I were to pick real words, it would probably just be, passion, forward, and the drive. It's the drive that keeps you going. It's the fire that keeps burning within you as a developer, because being in a big, or not even like a big industry, it's a pretty small industry, but being a small little studio amongst these giant AAA companies, it can be pretty daunting, but it is extremely rewarding to make a game, yourself or with a group of people, and being able to say like, I made this game, because it is not easy to make a game and release it. Like we all know, so many games have been canceled in the years that, with all the layoffs happening, and it's terrible. And being able to just say like, I've released a game, it is such a rewarding feeling. So yeah, and you have to have the passion for that. You got to be able to really push yourself forward. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good summary of it, and good advice in general. Just get that game out there, because just publishing it, is something that you should be proud of. Anyone else, or?
I think for me, I have basically too many hats, because I feel like we all we're all like are like working either like being producer or a programmer, or like doing sound design, mixing between. Or as for me, like I'm doing the like project management stuff, and also like just like handling all the legal paperwork and doing company logos, and branding and all that stuff. It's always like a fun thing to just like just like be like being able to like kind of like handle like more things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about indie dev is, you're working on something that's like a part of you, so you feel more invested too. And you'll wear any hat that is needed, right, to get the game to be the best it can be. Are you guys, I know you're still working on this game, right? But do you have plans to start another one in the future, or?
I would say so.
I'm living one day at a time. Like, I
okay.
would love to, but like focus, on what's ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
I have had ideas, but I've kept them to myself.
Oh no, I've been sharing my ideas too.
You're just
I've had so many ideas. I'm always telling, I'm yapping in his ear like, oh my God, I have this sick idea and blah blah, this could be a great game, I'm
like, make a prototype and we'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be funny though, like if we would just like go work on another game jam game, and then that also becomes a bit more popular. So now we have to like flesh that game out too.
Yeah,
the Gators.
Yeah.
We're like afraid if it's
Okay, that is awesome though. I really appreciate all of you coming on to talk. I'm very excited to see your game. It's very unique, and I've said it before, I love psychological thriller stuff. So this is very interesting, and I just can't wait to see it. And of course I'll have links to everything so everyone can follow you to keep an eye on as to what's going on, and then definitely wishlist it on Steam. Yeah. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.